There's been this conversation around the EU report, what the assessment of the EU Observation Committee group on the 2019 election, and what has become a major conversation around, and whether or not you had a server for the 2019 election, whether or not there was a back end where the results were transmitted to. Let's clear that first and foremost. Was there any back end system that INEC had in the course of the 2019 election? Because we understand that you piloted it at some time.
As a senior member of the legal profession, I'm very, very reluctant discussing and conversing over issues that are being canvassed in court presently. As you know, the issue of whether the Independent National Electoral Commission has a server and the issue of whether the Independent National Electoral Commission transmitted the results of the 2019 elections using the said server is an issue that has been joined in court. And the law is that when issues have been joined in court and the parties have already identified the major issues in contention, that it will be contemptuous of the court and also contemptuous of the legal profession for people to be discussing such issues on the pages of newspapers or on television and trying to write ruling or pass judgment on an issue before the court. So I believe that since the issue has been taken to court and since there's already a petition before the court, since the lawyers for the petitioners and the respondents have canvassed their various positions in court, that it will be more prudent and more rational to allow the court to, that is already properly seized of the matter, to do its ruling and write its judgment. Because whatever we say and whatever we do now, we prejudice the case that is in court, and I think that that is not healthy for our judicial process. If the framers of our Nigerian Constitution want to be
let me pause you for a moment, sorry. Mr. Okoye, apologies. Let me butt in for a moment because we need to take this break. I'm very thankful to you that you are able to clear these issues within the frame of the legality of it. But we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll look at what the European Union said and some of the observations and recommendations they made on our 2019 elections. That's going to be after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. Mr. Festus Okoye is the National Commissioner of INEC in charge of publicity and voter education at INEC, and Mr. Fasua, the National Chairman and the Presidential Candidate of the NRP in the 2019 presidential election. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on. Quickly also, maybe I should ask you this, Mr. Okoye, how does the European Union Observation Group report come to INEC? There are a lot of things they said they told the Commission to do ahead of the 2015 election. Some of these things, errors or challenges were repeated in the 2019 elections. And it's so sad that we experience those kind of lapses in the 2019 election. How does this come to INEC and the Commission generally?
Well, I've read the report of the European Union, and today we also received the report, an advanced copy of the report of the International Republican Institute and the National Democratic Institute. We have also received the report of some domestic election observers, and we're also waiting for the report of other international observers and other domestic election observers. Now, it was the Independent National Electoral Commission that invited some of the international organizations to come and observe our elections. And this was done deliberately because we wanted an independent assessment, an independent evaluation of the work of the Commission. So we are looking at the report of the EU positively and the report of the other international election observers. Yes, there were recommendations that were made by different international groups and organizations prior to the 2015 elections. Some of these observations and some of these recommendations were imputed into some of the alterations that were made to the constitutional framework and also into the alterations made to the electoral framework. And some of the recommendations that we felt needed administrative action. Some of them were also reflected into some of the administrative procedures we adopted. So I believe that there was some level of improvement in terms of some of the issues and some of the actions that we took prior to the 2019 elections. As you are aware, before prior to this particular period, we did not have timeline for the disposal of all pre-election matters. But with the fourth alteration to the Constitution, timelines for the disposal of pre-election matters were imputed into the constitutional and electoral framework. So there are some of the recommendations that were implemented, and there are also some of the recommendations that are also awaiting further legislative action.
So let's, if you're looking at we're looking at how the commission is receiving the report, but some of the people whose name are on the ballot, we have Mr. Fasua there. Let me quickly come to him. Mr. Fasua, your name was on the ballot. Were you satisfied with the role INEC played? Do you think INEC was transparent enough? And in comparison to that, the recommendations of the European Union, what is your assessment?
Right. Thank you very much. You know, I mean, I know the people in INEC, we interact, you know, I mean, I moved for the formation of a party. I know they're decent people and all of that, you know, and the job is tough, you know, and who makes it tough? The politicians. Well, one thing that needs to be said very quickly, and, you know, Mr. Festus Okoye is here. He used to be an NGO person now in INEC. They've been actually beating down on some of us who are actually the victims. They've been going around talking about the registering parties when they actually, in which case, I move away from supporting them. Because we were trying to be cooperative and see how, you know, we can do this thing in a very amicable manner. But with the kind of report that the European Union is bringing, violence, vote buying, use of incumbency power, you know, and all of these things that's going on, lack of transparency, inability to trace. I mean, I don't have as much resources as the European Union, neither does my party, the ANRP, by God's grace. We don't have that much resources, you know, but the European Union has the resources to move around, and on the basis of a sample, they've brought out this report which the world is watching, and we have to take it serious. So, but the fact that INEC is actually moving in a very antagonistic way towards the expression of political, you know, political activities in this country, the fact that some of us who decided that, look, we don't have to be clobbered into joining the so-called two main parties who have been funded with billions, multi-billions of naira in this country of taxpayers' money, we set up organizations on our own dime. And then we are being made to look like, you know, the villains in this instance. It's not acceptable. In which case, if INEC wants to go down that route, then we would actually let them know that to a large extent, INEC is actually becoming part of the problem. It is unacceptable what's going on. If we're saying that, look, where do we find the power? As small parties, some of them registered in August, you know, holding elections in February. Why are we talking about being irritated with the fact that there were many? When in actual fact, those parties were set up because there's problem in this country, and we felt that at our level, we should also get involved in creating and providing solutions and ideas.
Let me quickly, because of our time, I'd like you to weigh in quickly in just about 30 seconds. We have the Kogi election, we have the Bayelsa election, with the template we have on the ground now, which looks so much like that's what INEC is going into that election with, and what the European recommendations are, or the observations are. What are your greatest fear? Just in 30 seconds.
No, to a large extent, INEC should do itself a favor and actually try and take on some of these ideas that are coming from anywhere. Maybe they're coming from European Union or even from some of us. The reason why we're talking of European Union is because we don't even take ourselves that serious. If I'm speaking, I have no voice in my own country. So you need an European Union to come and tell you this is the way you should do stuff, when we should actually know how to do things properly ourselves. So we would, I think that INEC is backtracking on issues of server or no server. We were hearing, you know, people like Guinea and co, you know, talking about their server and how this is going to be different. And of course, now that it seems like it may be problematic, they're saying, no, we didn't use any server. So we're saying, okay,
all right, we need to close the program, but let Mr. Festus Okoye, I'd like you to respond so that we can conclude the program. Your reaction to some of the concerns raised by Mr. Tokwe Fasua?
Well, the position of the commission is that we need a national conversation around the number of political parties we have in Nigeria, so that we can make a determination on whether we need the number of political parties in existence. Nobody has said that political parties will be deregistered by fiat. What we are saying is that both civil society groups and organizations, political parties, and all the critical stakeholders should come together and make a determination on the quality and competitiveness of the political parties we have, and then take a decision based on that. Secondly, we have a disproportionate number of pre-election matters that are pending in the various courts of law as of today. We also need a national conversation on whether political parties are conforming to the spirit and intent of Section 87 of the Electoral Act. And if they are not conforming, how can we get our political parties to conform to internal party democracy so that we can have a less acrimonious party primary elections? But fundamentally, the Independent National Electoral Commission is going to flag off a conversation that will lead to fundamental constitutional and electoral reform.
We must leave it at that because we're obviously out of time, Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner in charge of voter education. It looks so much that you have your work cut out for you in the coming days because elections are around the corner again. Mr. Tokwe Fasua, presidential candidate of the NRP and the national chairman, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much indeed. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Have a wonderful evening.